Maintenant, une autre voix des acteurs de l'économie, c'est M. Roberto Suárez Santos, secrétaire général de l'Organisation internationale des employeurs, que je salue cordialement parmi nous. Et il est important de vous avoir parmi nous dans le cadre du présent contexte de célébration du centenaire de l'Organisation internationale du travail et aussi, je crois, à la veille du centenaire de l'Organisation internationale des employeurs. Monsieur Suárez, merci d'avoir donc pris du temps pour nous, parce que je sais que nous sommes tous très occupés, et surtout pour prendre la parole devant notre assemblée plénière de ce matin. Nous sommes donc impatients d'écouter les perspectives des employeurs et des organisations d'employeurs que vous présentez sur les questions en discussion à la présente session de la conférence. Vous avez la parole. Merci.
Thank you, Chairperson. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. I stand proudly before you today as Secretary-General of the International Organization of Employers. IOE was created immediately after the ILO was established. In fact, next year, we will celebrate our 100th anniversary. We are proud, sincerely proud to belong to the IOE family. IOE is made up of 158 independent and representative business organizations in 148 countries. These represent more than 50 million companies. But believe me, it's not the number of companies but the influence that these big national players have in the world of work which matters. IOE, as one of the largest business community representatives, can effectively help to make a difference on fundamental principles and rights at work. And we have proved it. IOE was born from a first movement of enterprises that had a strong social commitment. I would say the first movement of enterprises with a strong social commitment. Then, as now, we believe in free enterprise, we believe in market economy as the driver of prosperity and welfare. But we also have in our DNA the values and ideals that the International Labour Organization brought, especially the decent work agenda. The ILO was founded as the world emerged from the First World War and the devastating loss of millions of lives. Never before had war caused so much destruction. But millions of companies were also literally in rubble. And with that, millions of opportunities for workers disappeared. The ILO was established to help chart a new course. The employer's first spokesperson, Mr. Jules Carlier from Belgium, explained at that time the significance of ILO to bringing a peaceful solution to solve the conflicts between employers and workers. The way forward, he said, is gathering together representatives of governance, employers and workers, so that each of these groups may its voice heard and therefore come to an agreement through fair compromise. This message is as relevant today as it was then. But we are not here just to celebrate. ILO has a huge, great opportunity, an opportunity to strengthen its leadership, its credibility, its influence. But it has to move forward with courage and together with the three constituents. It takes time, we know it well. It takes resources and a lot of patience, as well as tension, to achieve consensus in ILO. But once this consensus is reached, with the full involvement of all constituents, its strength is undeniable. Once global ILO standards enjoy a strong ownership by the three constituents, in my experience, in our experience, it helped to transform enormously the situation on the grounds of workers and employers. Our policy resolutions, when fully endorsed by constituents, have also an influence, a critical influence, shaping national policies. At IOE, we are proud of being the ones that proposed the 1999 Declaration on Fundamental Principles of Rights at Work. This declaration has helped to better focus on the basics: fight against child labor, fight against forced labor, discrimination, promotion of freedom of association. There is real progress on implementing these fundamental principles and rights, even though the remaining challenges are still huge. The ILO also has taken robust and vital action to build capacities of employers and workers' organizations. Thank you for that. This is helping to have more solid, professional, and independent workers and employers' organizations. This is the foundation of a productive social dialogue. This is the foundation of sustainable social peace in many areas of the world. Also, the ILO has and continues to protect these organizations when they are under threat, intimidation, violence, interference, or marginalization. This is not rare. This is not rare either for employers' organizations. Freedom of association helps companies. We see each day how important this freedom is in countries like Venezuela and in many other parts of the world, where the private sector is threatened and attacked on a daily basis. Colleagues, 100 years on, my members and I thank the ILO for this protection and commitment. But let's look at the future. Transformations in the world of work are becoming disruptive for many, worrying for some, and fearful for others. But we cannot let fear be the only driver for managing the future. The negative assessments that we often read in literature, including ILO literature, does not help, and too often ignores the gains that have been made. We should look at the past also with pride. We should not ignore the billions of people who no longer live in poverty and have moved into decent life and working conditions. This is the result of both important standards that create a fair playing field that protects workers and employers. But it also has been the result of a conducive environment for companies to grow. Believe me, Sharon, the future offers more opportunities than before. Millions of workers, individuals, and companies will have unprecedented access to education, to skills, and to business connection. If we maximize these benefits of these new opportunities, even more people will be lifted out of poverty. We must not put brakes even on the future and respond out of fear. Be aware that if we just simply restrict entrepreneurship, we will harm not only the future jobs, but also creativity, innovation, prosperity. I agree with Sharon. There is an unfinished business ILO must undertake. More than 600 of people in the world work in informality, work on the black. These individuals and companies do not enjoy decent work, not freedom of association, not proper conditions, working conditions. And informality is not always decreasing in many countries for complex reasons. The ILO, to remain credible, needs to upscale its action to address this elephant in the room. We have a good basis, the recommendation that we approved in 2015. Also, the ILO cannot be relevant in the future if it does not position itself as a leader in effective providing guidance on skills. The future of the labour market depends on skills anticipation and our capacity to constantly learn and to learn quickly. Policies who effectively promote transitions from one job to the other will bring the winners of the future. This is not just about identifying the future technical skills. It's about helping countries to change the mindset of individuals, workers and employers. To be flexible, move quickly, and developing soft competencies. ILO needs a proper department specialized on skills for the future, helping countries, sectors, especially developing economies, to develop this agile skills capacity. Inaction on this is no longer acceptable. ILO also needs to assume, accept, and fully recognize, and that's very important for us, that without proper and sustainable environment for companies to grow, there is simply no decent work. There are two sides to the decent work coin: employment and economic growth. More than 80% of jobs come from the private sector. The ILO will fail in its mandate if it does not help companies to create jobs. That must be clear in any future declaration. This is not just about words or aspirational statements. It's about action, and action on three areas. First, it is time for all of us, and also for the ILO, to reflect in an objective and balanced manner how a new standard, how a new ILO standard or a new policy, which is being discussed, will impact the capacity of companies to create employment. This is far from being a systematic approach in our House. Second, we need the ILO to do more to build a strong business environment together with other international organizations. This is especially important for the small companies, which struggle with layers of legal and administrative obstacles in sometimes very hostile environment. These are also the forgotten heroes. The authority of ILO can enormously improve the situation. Third, ILO research must also examine with more diligence employers' needs. It must be much more balanced in its approach. But in general, the ILO must also become the house of employers. Managers and officers of ILO should be more familiar and sensitive with the new realities of business. More ILO staff should be recruited from the private sector. If this specific issue is fairly addressed, we can help to respond to the legitimate concern of employers that the ILO office is not impartial, despite its mandate requiring to be. Colleague, another central message that I have for you today is to join my workers' counterpart, Sharon Barrow from ITUC, in making a joint appeal. Sharon and I ask for the help of all ILO member states to, firstly, inform the different UN agencies and institutions about the value of regular tripartite dialogue with international workers and employees' organizations. Secondly, we ask you to help in achieving IOE and ITUC's goal of gaining permanent observer status in the UN General Assembly. As the UN system undertakes its reform process by reinvigorating its coherence, it is essential that the role of social partners expands and is not limited to the ILO. Social partners need to be able to effectively contribute to the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. Sharon and I appeal for IOE and ITUC to have recognized and dedicated role across other arms of the UN system, as well as in every country around the world. This is not just for us, but for the UN to increase in its impact. There is much talk of the need of partnerships between governments, civil society, in tackling the world's most pressing issues. SDG 8 on decent work is not an isolated topic. It covers broader human rights and development challenges that cut across many of the SDGs, including Goal 1 on no poverty, Goal 4 on quality education, and Goal 10 on reduced inequalities. The engagement of employers and workers' organizations is critical to the achievement of these ambitious goals. How companies will adapt to technology and other global challenges, such as the demographic shifts, climate change, skills gap, will be helped through business networks like ours, which are powerful and balanced. The IOE is well placed to collaborate with the UN on engaging with the private sector through our network in 148 countries. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, believe me when I say that we have the same aim and purposes. We can only achieve the wish of everybody by going hand in hand. And we want to do it with all our hearts. We ask you to give us your hands, to put your hands in ours, which we extend to you loyally and sincerely. These are not my words. These were the words of the first employer's spokesperson, Mr. Jules Carlet. 100 years on, the union between employers, workers, and government is as important as ever. Let's go forward hand in hand. Thank you so much. Please.
Je tiens à vous remercier et à vous exprimer ma gratitude, Monsieur le Secrétaire général de l'Organisation internationale des employeurs, parce que vous nous avez montré une chose, c'est que le timbre édité par la Poste suisse, je ne veux pas faire de publicité ici, mais qui montre les mains qui se tiennent dans un esprit de solidarité, sont véritablement le message que vous avez délivré ce matin ici, conjointement avec Madame Sharon Burrow. J'ai vraiment apprécié beaucoup la complémentarité de vos deux interventions. Et je crois que vous avez mis en avant, Monsieur Suárez, des éléments qui sont extrêmement importants aussi pour l'institution qu'est l'OIT, parce que sans partenaires sociaux, l'OIT ne serait pas la même et nous ne pourrions pas travailler dans un esprit de consensus et de dialogue social. Vous avez aussi marqué votre attachement aux valeurs, droits et principes fondamentaux de l'organisation, que vous avez rappelés d'ailleurs à juste titre, tels qu'ils ont été consacrés dans la déclaration de 1998, dont l'origine revient au groupe des employeurs. Et je sais par expérience que les deux partenaires sociaux, mais aussi justement les représentants des employeurs, ont beaucoup contribué à élaborer aussi, ensemble, dans un esprit de solidarité, la déclaration de 2008 sur la justice sociale, qui est aussi un des grands éléments qui guident l'action de cette institution. Vous nous avez retracé quelques éléments de l'histoire entre l'OIT et l'OIE. Vous nous avez donné vos visions sur le futur, sur la manière de construire le partenariat social, de maintenir le consensus au niveau international, au niveau national. Vous nous avez montré aussi quelle est l'importance de garder la dimension de compétitivité pour les entreprises, que cette dimension soit bien intégrée dans les réflexions de la maison, ici, et quelle est l'importance aussi à accorder à l'innovation et la créativité dans le cadre du développement durable. Merci à vous, merci de votre succès dans vos actions et surtout pour vos actions communes pour la formation, la justice sociale et le travail décent. Merci beaucoup. Voilà, nous restons ici dans cette salle. Les deux orateurs et oratrices sont raccompagnés et nous gardons nos places pendant que son Excellence, M. Mohamed Stahie, Premier ministre de l'Autorité palestinienne, va prendre place sur le podium.